Hello, Terence. Good morning.
Good morning, Mervyn.
Right, we've been talking about this for a while, wanting to have a little chat about your dad. So this is our interview. The plan is that we'll talk about it, record it, and eventually put it on YouTube to make it available to other people. So going on to this, I think a good point to start would be to talk a little bit about Terence. I mean, you and I have sort of known each other for well over 30 years. But for everybody's benefit, if you can briefly give us a summary of your own growing up years, your family, particularly with your dad, so that eventually we can move on to talking more about your dad. So over to you.
Thank you, Mervyn. Yeah, wow, it's going back in time, right? So I was born in Moratuwa, and I can remember going to a very small school called St. Sebastian College, attached to St. Sebastian Church. The reason being that I think at that time, my parents couldn't really afford to send me to the bigger school, but it gave me a very good exposure to different social backgrounds, right? So I studied with children from different backgrounds, like their parents were from fishing backgrounds, so carpenters and so on. So that exposed me to different types of lifestyles in that sense, and also the appreciation of the struggle that they are going through in terms of education. But in grade 4, I went to St. Sebastian College, which is led by brothers, Christian brothers. And from grade 4 to grade 12, I studied over there. Then I got selected to go to University of Moratuwa, where I studied electronics and telecommunication for 5 years. Then after that, I got a first class from that degree. They managed to get a scholarships to come to UK. So I did my master and PhD at the University of Manchester. Then I worked there for a couple of years. Then I went to Leeds University to do research job. And from that, I became a lecturer. And after 10 years in Leeds, then I came to University of Salford to set up a virtual reality center. And since then, I've been there for about more than 10 years. So I'm now running a lab called Think Lab, which is a technology competence center focusing on applying and developing innovative technologies to different sectors like aerospace, space, and so on. So that's about myself in a nutshell. So in my career, I have been academic. So it's about really teaching people, bringing new ideas to companies, universities, and so on. So that's kind of Terence Fernand in a nutshell for you.
Thank you. That's indeed the nutshell. You took us through quite a long journey and very efficiently covering the key points. And what I picked up from that were your very young years at school with those communities you mentioned, the fishing communities, the woodworking families, the struggle. So from that onwards, you knew what life was between haves and have-nots. And you valued education, and you recognized the importance of concentrating, putting effort into education that saw you rise. And from there you went into the school run by Christian Brothers and Moratuwa University, electronic communication engineering, getting a first class, which I need to highlight particularly that's relevant to the children who will be watching this, hard work getting the grade that opened the door for you to earn a scholarship to come and do research. And from there you moved forward very rapidly into research, lecturing, and being a professor, heading up the Think Lab. Superb. That's very, very inspirational, certainly very relevant to the children who will be listening to this. Now I want to move on to your dad, Joseph Alfred. Yeah, you decided to name the scholarship after him. And as the inspiration, as the co-founders of the scholarship scheme, from the day one you have been saying, well, I want to do something for children, and I would like the scheme to be named after my father. So which indicated to me that your father holds a very important, very soft spot in your heart. Must be very good reasons. So first of all, what I like to do is to ask you to tell us a little bit about Joseph Alfred, the person. I understand he was a teacher, but tell us a little bit about his own background. where he was born, if you know that, grew up, education, career, and all that, and the person, the teacher and the family man, before we go on to look at him in more closely.
Yeah, thank you, man. Yeah, I'm not sure actually where he was born, actually. So
Okay.
maybe I just guess that he was born in Moratuwa as well.
Yeah.
So I can remember him saying that when he was young, then he started his teaching career, and he had to go to very difficult places like Chilau.
Mm.
At that time, it was very undeveloped. He has to walk quite a long way to go to the schools, and it came across I don't know, snakes, and he was telling me lots of stories about the difficulties he had and sleeping, because sometimes you never know whether he will wake up because of this tough terrain that he was operating at that time.
Mm.
But however, that he became a very respected teacher, teaching Sinhalese and mathematics.
Mm.
And I can remember that when I got to know him well, that he was at that time teaching at Lasal College.
Okay. Yeah.
That was also led by some Christian brothers. That's in Maradana, as I understand.
Yeah.
So he always valued education. I can
Yeah.
remember as a person that he managed to earn the respect of our local villagers as well. So anybody wants to write a letter or advice on particular issue, they used to come to our house, and he was always welcoming those people, and he couldn't do enough to really help those people. At that time, he didn't really earn that much. I think his salary was about 250 rupees, and we had he had to feed about 7 of us.
Mm.
So I can remember that after he get up early in the morning about 5 o'clock, take the train to Maradana, teach, then he go and do tuition to people in Colombo to earn a bit more money so that he can feed us and make sure that he can support our education.
Mm.
So he always came back home about 7 o'clock in the night, 8 o'clock in the night, and then he never complained anything. So only thing he wanted to see was that, okay, we are happy, so we have good food on the table, and also we have good education. So I think, so that really gave me appreciation of how the influence of parent could change our lives, because without him, I don't think we would have come to this stage, to become a professor and so on. So because of his hard work, I think we had the right foundation, right support structure to achieve our current achievement, if you like.
Mm.
So I think that's a little bit about him. But as a person, he was very much into joking as well. Actually, he always brought laughter to family, friends. He always, whenever somebody comes, he had a lot of jokes, and so everybody loved listening to him. But although he was repeating the same jokes many times, I think we never got fed up, because he always bring a new spin to the joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in that sense, he was very supportive and friendly person to the people around him, to the family, as well as I'm sure he was very respected at St. Dilasal College as well. I think it's called St. Dilasal College, I think.
Yeah, Dilasal College,
Dilasal
founder of Christian Brothers. Yeah.
Christian Brothers, yeah.
Right. Let me just pick up a couple of points out of that by way of summary. So he started his career as a teacher. Early days he worked in Chilau. At the time the areas were developed, so there was this having to walk a lot and having to rough it, and the life was hard. And eventually, sort of, I believe he moved to Moratuwa. And then you mentioned that he worked at Dilasal Brothers, Dilasal Maradana, where he had to get up 5 in the morning, get the train to Maradana to go and do the teaching, and they stand behind to give tuition to make up the salary. And in particular, to underline 250 rupees a month, feeding a family of 7, which is an achievement. Today's context, I'll be lucky to feed 1 with that, but times have changed, and that's the rupee. And what comes across mainly is the person and he never complains. He had this sense of humor as a way of coping, as well as uplifting other people. And I think two things that stood out is putting food on the table, feed the children, and the importance of education, which I believe has filtered down to all your family, and the discipline of the person, hard work, and that the children have picked up, that has sort of taken them places. And he was a disciplined person, highly respected. He must have been terribly good at the subjects he was teaching, always people respected. And then people come to him for advice, when they feel down, whenever they talk to him. And although he repeated his jokes, but still, they were fun, that's the way. And people enjoyed it and enjoyed his company. That's a very nice pen picture of a person I like to be with, because it doesn't matter how you feel. A company of people like that always has a way to uplift people, whether they are children, family, or friends. Must have been a great guy.
Yes.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on. Now, yes, you had a choice. You could have just given the scholarship whatever name you chose. So, like some people do, not even name it and just remain it as scholarship scheme, APSL scholarships. But in your case, from the day one, you're very clear. Now, having listened so far, I can more or less imagine, but I want it to come from you. Yeah, you decided to name the scholarships after him. So, in a nutshell, tell us why.
I think like you always feel like you need to give something back to the community because you've been lucky and you had good parents like him, and so obviously then the question is actually why should I use his name? That's the question actually. Why did I choose his name as the
Yeah.
to use his name? I think he uh, represents somebody that who believe in education, who believe in young generation. They believe that education is the best thing that he could give to us, for example, and to his students in his class. And he dedicated his entire life educating people, educating his own children as well as educating other children.
Mm.
So I think he represents human as a generic point of view, that somebody who believes in education at the same time as a father who believes that education is the best gift that he can give to his own children.
Yeah.
And he kind of applied that his belief into practice. He worked hard. He didn't think about his own success or happiness or whatever. He kind of dedicated his entire life to make that happen. So I think he symbolized somebody that really appreciate that, somebody who wants to give his best to the next generation. So I think that's why I decided that I think symbolically his name will represent a person who believes in education. I think that's why I decided to use his name as to represent this particular scholarship.
You know what? I have heard this. This thing has sort of been in my head for the last 5 years because of Alfred scholarships. But hearing it spelled out today, it joins up really, really well. Yeah, because I think what you were doing was thinking aloud all those reasons, the influences, because to you, your father represents a person who believes in young people, investing, giving a better future. And he believes that education is the best way to make that happen. Yeah. And not only believed, but he put his money where his mouth is, actually turned into practice. Doesn't matter his own comforts, self-sacrifice, he didn't worry about.
Yes.
He wants to do his best for children, for younger generations, doesn't matter. So in a way, Joseph Alfred scholarships is it's a really, really great way of recognizing that and respecting the memory of this great man who, who in his very quiet way, I mean, he wasn't a politician, he wasn't a media person going shouting. In his own way, within the patch he could influence. He did that with his family, with the children he taught. So it's superb. It really comes together listening to you, how appropriate it is to call the scholarship scheme and the bursary Joseph Alfred. That's absolutely brilliant. Okay, right. Now, my last question is that let's just assume, I don't know how many years since Joseph Alfred passed away, but let's assume, because I believe these people live in spirit, because a lot of their good work, the influence continues. Sometimes it multiplies, reaches out beyond. I would like to get into your father's shoes and sort of speak up and say, if Mr. Joseph Alfred were alive today, and particularly with the scholarship, APS scholarship scheme in mind, I mean, I would think he will be a real cheerleader. He'll be delighted with lots of children are benefiting, and other people, sponsors, have believed in this idea and joining ranks to open it up to more people. So what would he have to say to the sponsors who have sort of come together working with you to support this initiative, and perhaps what sort of advice he may have towards the children who have been selected to benefit from this, and maybe to the mothers and fathers of those children who want to do their best for those children, but for whatever the limitations they have not been capable, so they are getting a bit of help. So to everybody who is listening, we'd like to hear a little bit of Joseph Alfred's thinking.
That's a tough one, actually, because I think what I would say is that he will, obviously, he will be very proud that what we are doing and helping children, and especially children who are not fortunate enough to have good education. So he'll be very proud, because that's what he dedicated his life to, teach students who are not well off. So he will be very proud, and obviously I'm sure that he will give his blessings to start with. But I'm sure he will come up with another thousands of names, thousands and thousands, and say, tell us, this is good. This is only a drop in the ocean, you know.
Yeah.
And what about this child over here? You know, there's another, I can give you another 10 from there, right? So I'm sure he will give me a list of things and get me going and say, oh, that, you know, probably I will have to say that, stop, you know, this is not possible. You know?
Yeah.
That, I think that's what he will really say. You're doing good, but it's only a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
And try and, you know, and I'm sure he will encourage me and also the committee and all the sponsors to really go beyond our current ability, feel like, you know, think outside the box. He always thought maybe everything is possible. Yeah, so he will try to encourage us to go beyond what we're doing at the moment. I think that's something he will say. At the same time, he's very cautious about the use of the money, because he has seen some of the other parents abusing some of this opportunity. So, I mean, he'll be pleased that, you know, IPSL, of course, you know, we are having a very good system or mechanisms to make sure that the money is going to the right place. So he will be obviously happy about that. At the same time, I'm sure that he will emphasize that aspect of the scholarship. I think he was also a person that although he was a Christian, that when he taught people from different cultures, he didn't have any barriers or, you know, boundaries. So I think, again, perhaps he will emphasize the need for reaching out to vulnerable communities beyond our capabilities, perhaps maybe the rural communities, as well as different, you know, despite any religion or other things, to make sure that it is equal. So I think we already got that kind of ethos already built in, so I'm sure he will be happy for that. But I think he will encourage us to cast the net much more wider in that, to go to the rural areas that he used to teach, because he has seen the difficulties that kids are having in very rural, in the villages. So because that's where he started his career. So I'm sure that he will share his knowledge in terms of not just towns like the one we're doing more to chill out kind of stuff, but there are lots of rural areas that we haven't reached, and where he got a lot of experience in terms of working in those difficult terrains and with difficult and vulnerable communities. So I have a feeling, I'm sure, that he will share his wisdom in
Mm,
terms of the difficulties they are facing and encourage us to go beyond our current portfolio, if you like.
mm.
So those are the things come to my mind, Mervyn. I'm not sure whether I'm sure when I finish this interview, there'll be lots of other things will come to my mind. I'm sure that but I'm sure I will pass that to you if I get more ideas.
Brilliant. What we could do is, because once this is recorded and we plan to feature this in one of our future bulletins, so if you have any further thoughts, we can put it into an article to accompany that, so that would sort of supplement it.
Yeah.
Now, listening to you, I think a couple of things went through my own mind. From the day one that I got involved in doing this with you, it has been always in my mind. Yes, there are charities, thousands of them in all shapes and flavors. But from the day one, what we wanted was to make it efficient,
Mm.
keep the cost to a minimum, because we don't want big overheads and admin structures, and also to make use of our own cultural and language awareness to reach, speak the language, so don't want big expensive intermediaries telling stories. So that whether it's £10, £15, £20, we want to give as much as possible to help the children, because that's the the approach your dad believed in, not throwing big pots of money to begin with. There wasn't the money, and whatever little we have has to work for the poor. And he was a believer in reaching out for people who are hard to reach, and whether it's rural areas or people who don't have a voice, and particularly the children, and belief in education. So as a way of lifting them out of poverty and building a better world. So those are wonderful things. So I think the best homage, in my opinion, we can pay him is to maintain those values and beliefs that he inculcated in you and your family, and you and your brothers and sisters are testimony to that belief value system, the way you are involved and supporting the scheme, and also manage to bring other people on board. So as long as you and I, and I'm sure the APSL, are involved in delivering this scheme, we want to maintain this value system, not to build inexpensive structures, but to keep it very close to the ground and make sure that the little bit of money goes a long way, and the parents and families receiving that money also take responsibility to be efficient and accountable, knowing that this is to help the children and their education and make it grow.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so long live those beliefs,
Mm.
and I'm really delighted, and I personally feel honored, although I never had the opportunity to meet this great man, but working with you to share some of those values and beliefs, and being able to contribute
Mm.
to make it happen, bring it, because without that, I think currently we are helping 85 children, and we are very keen to grow this and reach with the help of some more sponsors, generous sponsors, to make it 100 by Christmas. If we can do that, I'm sure your dad would be delighted, with his long list already and waiting to make it grow longer. So that's what I believe, in a way, to contribute to that sort of thinking, and for that legacy to live on, and to give education a chance, to give these children an opportunity.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure that my dad will also be happy to see that I met somebody like you,
Mm,
who really run a scholarship like this. I'm sure he will consider you as obviously a part of our family as
mm,
well. Like we've been to our family and so on.
yeah.
So I'm sure that he will be very pleased to see the effort that you're doing as well. So personally, I would like to thank you for all the effort that you've done so far, and keeping the boat, as you said, and
Mm,
building it. I think we see that having a bit of a snowball effect. We started with 5, 10, 15, whatever. Now it's going to almost 85. So I'm sure in a few years' time we will reach hundreds of scholarships. So thank you very much for the effort as well.
Thank you. My feelings are mutual because having had that opportunity to meet with your family, we realize that we have a lot in common in our beliefs, in our values, and we all value education.
Mm.
In a way, working together, we realize that together we can do a lot more than what we could do individually. And then if we, again, like your father, people, yeah, your dad was trusted, respected, and I'm a strong believer that whatever we do, handling a bit of money, we need integrity, accountability to make sure everything we do is above board so that people have the belief, because unfortunately, trust is something very much abused in modern world today.
Mm.
People are very self-centered, a lot of people are, and money does the talking. But this we go beyond that, because at the end of the day, it's the final things that money can't buy that will keep
Yes.
scholarship going.
Yes.
So it's a joy. Right. Last final say to you now, Terence. Uh, how would you? Well, yeah. How would you like to conclude this interview, giving whatever message you want to give to the listeners?
I think first I would like to thank you for the current sponsors for their generosity. I think without them we wouldn't have been able to progress so far. And then from their efforts, as you can see, lots of children are benefiting, and you can't believe how much that means to them, because it's not just a one-off payment. Continuously, we are giving them the opportunity to progress with their careers. I'm sure in a few years' time, it will have a ripple effect. Those children will grow up, get good education, good jobs, and then that impact will have a much more great impact in generations. So what we are doing is it's not just helping one person, but it will have that energy and the opportunity will filter through to their family members as well as their descendants. So that's a great thing. I would like to thank sponsors who are doing that. At the same time, I would like to ask sponsors to see if you can really help us to grow, because I'm sure that each sponsor could perhaps try and get maybe few, 4 or 5, few more sponsors to get more scholarships so that we can grow as a scholarship and help more children as well. So what I would like to ask is your help in terms of expanding this scholarship so we can have a much more great impact for the next generation. So that's all I have to say. At the moment, I hope we can count on the support from our Sri Lankan colleagues, our friends, families to support this scholarship.
Thank you very much, Terence. It's a pleasure having this chat about you and your dad.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.